What is up, you guys? Today we ask the ultimate question on whether or not it's worth buying a wrecked vehicle and fixing it up yourself to be a reliable daily driver. Maybe you are shopping for your first car, or just on a tight budget like me, or maybe you wrecked your precious baby yourself. Whatever the case may be, we all know that body shops and mechanical fees can skyrocket very easily. But what if you just did it yourself?
What's DIY stand for?
Do it yourself.
So let's see how this went from my personal experience and whether or not this 2004 Acura TL deserves a second chance. Back in July of 2022, my daily driver broke down on my way to work. It was a 1991 Ford Crown Victoria LTD 5.0 liter V8 302 small block. And yes, that's the same engine as the Mustang and the F-150s of the time. Even the Ford Broncos had them. And it was slower than a sack of potatoes, and on top of that, my engine had blown after 1 year of daily driving. I always wanted to put a better engine in this car, but at the time, money and space were not an option. Because of work and other personal things in my life, I needed a running car ASAP. So for a lack of better words, I was on a time crunch. But that was when a miracle happened. A coworker of mine called me up and said, "You know what, man? I have a Acura just sitting in a field at my house not doing anything. I will give it to you under one condition. I need help building a pool." In that moment, he sent me 2 really crappy pictures of a car, and I fell in love. And I, without hesitation, took him up on this deal. My wife and I went to go pick the car up that same afternoon, and when we got there, we were shocked. I had no idea it was gonna be this kind of wrecked. But you know what? I needed a car so badly that I didn't care. My coworker threw a little bit of gas in it, and I brought a battery that I had laying around from a forklift. And yes, I said that right, a forklift battery. And surely enough, that Acura started right up with no hesitation. And we drove it home over an hour that night. Cue the pool building montage. Looks like we're building a UFO. So back to talking about the car itself. Now, this car was absolutely filthy. It stank so bad. It had been sitting for 2 years with nothing but garbage inside. The car originally belonged to my coworker's stepson, who wasn't the cleanliest person. I found anything from old beer bottles to fast food that wasn't eaten to Magic the Gathering cards and unused condoms. Yeah, this kid, he was something. When you get a project car, I highly recommend that you start cleaning stuff. You will be more comfortable when you have a clean car to work with than an oily, greasy, stinky pile of crap. Now, it doesn't have to be spotless, but you know, you don't have to have much skill to clean a car, and it can make the whole experience more enjoyable. Now, one thing that was very concerning to me was there was a ton of extra car parts in the trunk. Anything from springs, bolts, nuts, brakes, exhaust, I mean, you name it. Now, I was super worried that this car was just missing stuff. And I recommend that if you ever find this kind of thing in your car, that you set it off to the side in a box, because you never know what you're gonna need when you're rebuilding it. Now let's talk damages. When you're buying a wrecked car, you have to assess the situation. Take a step back and realize the amount of work it's gonna take and what you can do and can't do. Now from this picture alone, you can easily tell that I'm gonna need a new bumper, a new light fixture, a new quarter panel, but you have to dig deep. What exactly is broken? Did the frame get bent? Is it leaking oil because of the wreck? Did the wheel get pushed out of alignment? If it's any of those following things or more, honestly, you have to take a step back and say, no, this isn't for me. Now, in my case, I actually got very lucky because this wreck was actually caused by hitting a deer. So it wasn't a head-on collision, the airbags didn't deploy, it wasn't that kind of thing. So in my case, the frame was okay, the wheel was okay, and the damages were mostly cosmetic aside from the light fixture and this white little reservoir that you see, which is actually the windshield wiper fluid, which I ended up replacing anyways. And with that being said, I ordered the pieces that I needed and I got to work. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you that working on a car is easy, but if you take it one bolt at a time, one screw at a time, it is not as bad as you would think. Fixing a car is kind of like working on a giant Lego puzzle piece type deal. Now, if the left side is wrecked, you could always go look at the right side and mimic it or copy it or see how it's built. Don't forget that. Another big tip I got for you is don't be afraid to look for a car that's super common. I know you want to be unique. I know you want to have something that nobody has. But the more popular your car is, the more online videos there's going to be on how to fix things, the more of a community and forum group you're going to find. Now, on my 91 Crown Vic, I guess that car is just too ugly for anyone to really care about it anymore because there was almost no info online on how to repair it. I had to actually look up videos on Mustangs and F-150s that had a similar engine to work on certain things, and that was such a pain in the butt. Now, by this part in the build, I've got the quarter panel off, the old light fixture out, and the front bumper off. And a quick side note, you want to look at your old bumper because mine had all the trim pieces on it intact. So I didn't want to reorder that Acura emblem or none of the little silver pieces. So I just took them off and slapped them on the new bumper. And also, you want to look at your wiring for your light fixture. Now, you don't have to be an electrician or anything, but just make sure nothing's cut, nothing's ripped or nicked, and you'll be okay. So by this point in the video, my front bumper came in, and as you can see, I didn't get it painted. And the reason for this is because this car is just a work car. I don't honestly need a show car. I don't need to impress anybody. I just needed to get from point A to point B reliably. So if you're the kind of person that loves cosmetics, then I would go ahead and get a part like this painted before putting it on. And honestly, I just wanted to save money as well. Now, a quick disclaimer if you haven't figured this out already. I love cars and I've been working on cars for a while now, but I had never done anything even close to this before. This was my first time attempting anything like this. In fact, I have no professional mechanical experience. This is just a hobby I do on the side, and it is something that I just find necessary to do to save money and get from point A to point B. In my daily life, I'm just an electrician, so I know how to use hand tools pretty well, or I know how to troubleshoot and problem solve, but that doesn't mean that I have a mechanical background. This is just something I look up on YouTube like most of you. I also used to work fast food when I first started this, so there's no excuse for any of y'all not to do anything like this. By this point in the build, I remember being so excited. It started to finally look like something. I got the light in, my final trim pieces were coming in, and I went to go steal some wheels off this old Kia that I had that also blew up, and I threw those puppies on my Acura, and I just thought it looked so dirty, man. I loved it. So now by this point, all I had left was some final touch-ups, some general maintenance, some last-minute cleaning. I was prepping this car to get a safety inspection. If you didn't know, here in Texas, you have to have a state safety inspection in order to register the vehicle and change the title over. But besides that, this thing was looking very promising. Here are some notable things that I've done to the car since owning it. I've changed the alternator out. It went out at around maybe 5,000 miles. That sent me back maybe $200, but it was worth it. Other than that, there was a sway bar end link that was missing underneath the car. That's super dangerous, so I went ahead and got one from AutoZone as well. And my car was squealing out of nowhere one day. It turns out that the idler and tensioner pulleys were bad, so I went ahead and put those in as well. Other than that, I've done simple maintenance like spark plugs, air filter, cabin filter, oil changes, you know the deal. So let's answer the question, was all of this worth it? At the time of this video, I've owned this car for 6 months and 3 weeks. I've put a total of 12,000 miles on it, and it's never left me stranded. It was never the prettiest thing on the road, but yes, it was worth it. and I highly recommend that you get into something like this if you haven't. So I did the math on what it cost me to get this car into daily driving conditions, and it cost me a grand total of $1,609, and this includes the front bumpers, the quarter panels, the light fixtures, the alternator, stuff like that. I'm not taking into account anything like spark plugs or oil changes. So at the end of the day, I think I got a good bargain on this car. Let me know what you guys think and whether or not you would drive something like this. As always, have a good day. Now, I love this car, and I could talk about it all day, but it has its major flaws. For example, it is 79 degrees here in Texas, and I'm already getting hot. And my AC does not work. It worked the very first day I got this car, and by the next day, all the Freon had leaked out. And you know what? I've never looked into it ever since. Now, it could be something really simple, like maybe maybe when the car got wrecked, it held Freon, and when I used it, maybe it released it. I don't know. But